This is sponsored by a nonprofit organization that's about 30 years old called Weave a Real Peace. We typically have an annual meeting, but in the days of the pandemic, we're now having monthly get-togethers via a Zoom. And we're featuring our members and the work that they're doing all around the world. If you're interested in knowing more about WARP, our website is weavearealpeace.org, and you can go there and browse around. You can learn about our members and the work they're doing. If you scroll down to the bottom, we have a textile resource guide that offers you links to a lot of the resources our members offer. And of course, if anyone's interested in joining, there's a spot at the bottom and also at the top where you can do that. Okay, so today we're going to have the treat of having 3 different speakers with us who are all working with Guatemalan weavers. And I know there are others in the audience who have that experience as well. Each of our speakers will talk about their organization and the work they're doing for about 10 minutes. And then we'll have 20 to 30 minutes for questions and discussion. So I'm going to ask, if you have questions, you feel free to type them into the chat so that we don't lose track of them. But we will wait until each of our 3 speakers has made their 10-minute presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Mari Gray, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about her organization. There have been a lot of presentations over the years of people working in Guatemala. We have a lot of members who have spent time there, but Mari is one of the newer entrants to the field, and so take it away, Mari.
Thank you, Judy. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope so.
You might want to put your computer on speaker view, everybody, so that you can see Mari's smiling face.
That's a good tip. Thank you everyone for being here. I've never been on such a large Zoom call. It's fun. It's incredible to see so many screens and from all over the world. My name is Mari, just like Judy said, Mari Gray, and I was one of the scholars to attend the annual meeting, not last year, but the year before, 2019. So funny that we just lost a year in our timeline. And I'm happy to be part of WARP. Thank you so much for having me. I have a small PowerPoint presentation for you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I hope I can make it work.
Looks good.
Okay, good. Okay. The project I'll be sharing with you today is called Textile Designs, and it's my small business. It's set up as a social enterprise in Guatemala, working with different artisan groups. First off, I'd like to share with you a little bit just about myself. I'm Mari. I was born in Guatemala to a Japanese mother and an American father. And my mom is a textile artist, so I always grew up with weaving and textiles around me. And my father was a photojournalist in the 80s working in Central America. So this is why we were in Guatemala and how I was born there. And Guatemala has always been one of my homes. We spent summers there growing up, and I just loved it there. I'm not there currently because of pandemic reasons, but I hope to be back soon. In 2013, I started Textile Designs, and it was set up as a personal brand because I saw the need for a little bit of extra input on design and quality control when I went to go visit different artisan groups in Guatemala, which I had done throughout my life as my parents love the country. I basically half grew up there. So I already had a lot of artisan connections. And when I started Textile Designs, I started with one local textile group at Lake Atitlan and a couple of different leathersmiths to try to create something that could be marketable basically internationally. So we started as a product-based brand. And since then, we've made some pivots, some shifts in our focus. And 2020, we definitely made some changes to our business model. And this is what I will be sharing with you today. Now it's 2021, and we currently work with 16 different artisan groups and families. And as you can see, most of them are in the Western Highlands. And some of the artisan groups I already had connections with prior to starting the business, and others I've found along the way. And most of the people, the artisans that we work with, are in textiles. So all of this together, we have embroidery groups, weaving groups, and the techniques differ regionally. So we can work with ikat, natural dyes, piqueville, brocade, backstrap, foot loom, a wide range. But now we've also incorporated other artisan cooperatives, such as a ceramic group, which has been really fun for us to incorporate textile inspirations to a different medium. We also work with silver, an artisan who works with silver and jade, leather. So all of this together has enabled us to work to create unique designs by combining regional techniques, which leads us to, while we started with product-based business, I've really enjoyed shifting the focus to more of a service-based facilitator role. And one example of this is our ability to take custom orders. And this has been a big source of income for us, and it represents good work for us. Because we work with so many different regional techniques, I think we can offer something unique. And I just wanted to share with you a process that we went through with our friend Kelly. She sketched out a design for her collection using natural dye colors that we've been able to standardize. And from sketches like these, we are able to start a conversation about what the possibilities and limitations are as far as unique design and creations. And so after this, so this is a design that involves a lot of different colors.
Okay, because I've got 2 water bottles here.
And then, so this is a picture of Francisca, who is washing the ikat warp to be put into a natural dye vat. So from design, it goes to thread, to yarn, and then to the loom. It is woven on a backstrap loom. And one of the products that we made for this collection, for example, was a bag in the end. And you can see that the final product is not the same as the sketch. And this is because we have to alter sketches, we have to alter designs in order to meet the realities that we can offer. And in this case, the colors that Kelly had selected could not be combined together because they used different mordants. And so we went through different versions and finally came to an end product. And we really enjoy facilitating these custom orders. It's a really nice way to collectively offer more work for the artisans on one hand, and on the other hand, be able to offer some sort of a creative outlet for artists who enjoy designing. So we see benefits on both sides, and we really enjoy it. Another way we facilitate more of a service role in Guatemala is through our textile travels. We've been hosting annually. 2020 was very difficult for us, of course, in this sense, but we hope to have a successful trip in 2021. And this is a time we put together where we host creative workshops throughout a week. And what we want to achieve through this time is not only learning about traditional techniques found in Guatemala that are used in Guatemala, but also share ideas from the participants who have textile experiences themselves, who are creative themselves, in order for the local communities and the artisans to move forward in their own business development and design, because these are groups, we only visit groups that are trying to also sell to foreign markets. And as you know, for rural communities, design and production for use that they are unfamiliar with can be really difficult. In 2020, we made big changes as we faced a difficult year. I think we all did. And these are the three that really helped us come through. We started a project that we called Artisan Direct, and we started offering backstrap looms and online experiences. And I'd just like to share with you very quickly what these are. When the pandemic hit in Guatemala, international tourism stopped immediately. Stores were shut down, and we started receiving requests from our artisan partners to see if we would be willing to try to sell what they had already made, because they had no way of selling items. And this is because they knew that we have an e-commerce. Basically, we have a website that works. And while we had never done this before the pandemic, because one, I think I just enjoy being part of the design process. And two, I always wanted to be able to offer something that could not be found in other places. However, with the pandemic, this was a totally different situation. And we said, of course, let's give it a try. And we started listing things online. And this has been successful, not only for individual sales, but also as an inspiration for taking custom orders. So by clients coming and seeing these pictures of the creation possibilities, we are seeing an increase in custom orders, which is really nice. We also had these backstrap looms that were already ready to go, but with lockdowns and people looking for creative activities at home, we were right there, ready to provide weaving for home weaving through these backstrap looms that include everything you need for weaving at home. They're kits, and we made them in different colors, like these, and in different sizes. This one we made to be narrower so that kids could also weave. This led us pretty naturally into the world of online experiences and classes. And while we had some experience hosting in-person workshops, we had no experience with digital platforms like Zoom. I had never used before. And this has been a learning experience. But by now, we've hosted a wide range of workshops, from pom-pom making to coffee roasting to backstrap weaving. I just got off a call, or not a call, but a Zoom class of backstrap weaving. We are hosting them every other Saturday. This is the master weaver who is our teacher for the backstrap weaving classes, Doña Lidia Lopez. Maybe you know her. She's quite famous, I would say. She's traveled all over the world teaching backstrap weaving. And she is the perfect teacher, really. And we just had to figure out a way to have her teachings be digestible digitally. And we are still learning, and we have ideas on how to improve. But so far, I think we are able to offer a program that is, in a world when in-person workshops are not possible, I think this is pretty close to second best, I hope. For example, for what we call the intermediate brocade class, we go over these three.
You're going to have to wrap it up.
Oh, okay. I'll go quickly. I think I have 2 slides, maybe. So we go over these 3 brocade designs in an hour. And you would think, it sounds like maybe it's quite fast, but I'll show you some pictures now. We started a hashtag where we're able to see how the participants are progressing. So it's been really fun to see how they are. And this one, this is a participant who has been with us from the very first class. And she was an experienced weaver already, but new to backstrap weaving. And you can see how much she has been able to figure out from our online platform, with, I'm sure, supplementary materials. But if we can help a weaver get to this level of brocade, I think we're really onto something. And with that said, this is the last slide. These are some of the experiences that we have coming up, just in case you are interested. We would be lucky and happy and honored to have you participate in our offerings. We have just the traditional textile talk, to backstrap weaving, to an embroidery class, to a coffee roasting experience. And we will be adding more as we go. So you can see them on our website or sign up for our newsletter. And thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to share with you a little bit about our work. I know that 2020 has been difficult for everyone around the world. I hope you are doing well where you are. And I will.
Thank you, Mari. That was great. And it's so nice to see you and hear you again.
Thank you, Judy.
Learn what you're
Thank
doing.
you for wrapping me up.
Sometimes we lose track of what happens to the scholarship recipients from our annual meetings. So it's wonderful to be able to know. It sounds like you're doing great. The next
Thank you
speaker,
for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Don't go anywhere because I know there'll be questions. But next we're going to hear from Ann Kelly with Mayan Hands. Oh no, Alyssa, we're going to do you next. Sorry about that. Alyssa Woofter with Upavim. Did I do that right?
Yeah, it's Elisa, but people get it wrong all
Very
the time.
good.
Don't worry about that. So I'm Elisa Woofter. If you can't hear me or see what's going on, please write a message in the chat board and we'll see if we can fix it. I'd like to thank Warp for inviting us to present on Upavim. Let me open my PowerPoint here and then we'll get going with the presentation. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am the U.S. Director of Sales for Upavim Crafts, and Upavim is a women's cooperative located in the outskirts of Guatemala City, and our U.S. offices are based in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'll tell you just a little bit about myself, and then we'll jump into Upavim. So as you can see, and I am not an expert in Guatemalan textiles, so you will have to speak with Mari or Ann about that. I am a big lover of textiles, and I learned my weaving in Bolivia. So this is Santusa, and I learned how to weave on her oblique frame loom as a Peace Corps volunteer in Bolivia. As you can see, my skills on weavings are a lot less complicated than hers, but it is a belt, and I finished it, and I was very proud of it. After I returned home from Peace Corps, I got my master's degree in Latin American Studies, focusing on women's craft and empowerment through women's crafts. And then I purchased a brick and mortar store in Gainesville, Florida called Alternatives Global Marketplace, and I still run that online. I also co-founded a business called Body Designs, and we work with artisans in Oaxaca, traditional shoemakers and weavers. So I'm going to start talking. So about 2 years ago, Mary Joan, who is a board member with Warp, retired, and I took over the U.S. distribution from Upavim Crafts. So I'd like to start talking about Upavim with a short 2-minute video. It gives you a good background of Upavim. Okay, can you hear that and see that?
Upavim is a women's cooperative located in La Esperanza, Guatemala. La Esperanza has been deemed a red zone by the Guatemalan government due to the high levels of gang violence that are present within the community. Upavim stands against this violence by empowering women, giving them an opportunity to improve the quality of life for themselves and for their families through educational and economic opportunities. Upavim is a self-governing cooperative of approximately 80 women that began over 25 years ago and has grown into a beacon for the entire community. Most of the women are employed through the Fair Trade Crafts program. At Upavim, we believe that when women are economically empowered, families thrive and communities are safer. As a member of the Fair Trade Federation, Upavim follows a model that assists in alleviating poverty and promoting economic justice by paying fair wages and establishing partnerships based on dialogue, transparency, and respect between artisans and marketers. Upavim provides a safe work environment and secure income that the women would not be able to find elsewhere in the community. Upavim is a space where the women can be creative, innovative, and in charge. The Upavimas work together to design and create the crafts, providing a genuine cooperative and collaborative environment where women are empowered to express themselves. The crafts program began in the early 1990s and has expanded rapidly since then, allowing it to not only be self-sustainable, but also help fund programs that strengthen the community, including a child care center, primary school, and medical clinic. Your purchases from Upavim Crafts make a difference. They provide a safe space, a living wage, education, and hope for the future. Studies have shown that when you empower women economically, you grow a community, which is exactly what's happening in La Esperanza.
Shut that down. Go back to my PowerPoint here. Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint now? Great. Okay, so you can see from that video that our story is a little different than many other weaving and craft projects in Guatemala. We're not an indigenous weaving cooperative located in the highlands of Guatemala, but we're a sewing cooperative located in Zone 12 of Guatemala. You can see this is a map of Guatemala City in the white, and you can see the different zones. And Upavim is located in the south, and Antigua is on the left, just for a reference. It's one of the popular tourist destinations. So these are the photos of La Esperanza 30 years ago when Upavim started. It was really located in a rural village with no paved roads. The picture on the left is the beginning of the Upavim building. And over the last 30 years, Upavim has grown significantly. You can see the buildings now. And really the city of Guatemala has also grown, and it's enveloped the cooperative, and that really made our mission turn into one of surviving urban poverty and gang violence. Upavim really is a story of women's perseverance, and over the past 30 years, the women have built this cooperative. They built this three-story craft building with a volunteer quarters on the top, and that's the building on the right. They've also built a 4-story K-6 school. And it also has a new rooftop playground, which is very important for the kids to play outside in a safe area. We have a pharmacy in the complex, a bakery, a preschool and daycare. And these projects are really impressive. The women run and manage all of these projects themselves, all while doing them, dealing with incredibly difficult and personal hardships. Really, women like myself could probably not even comprehend surviving. These women have little education. In their homes, they deal with domestic violence. Many of them have had their husbands, brothers, sons, daughters shot and killed by gangs. They run all of their own errands because they don't want their children in the streets, because they're afraid that they might be unwillingly recruited into gangs. So you can see that it's Upavim's mission to provide support and opportunities for women in this community. And Upavim really has become a beacon of light in La Esperanza. So our craft project is really an integral part of the organization. It not only provides jobs, but also it provides financial support for the school and other projects. And we are primarily a sewing cooperative. You can see we use beautiful hand-woven textiles made in Guatemala to make our products. And we have several families that we have been partnering with for 20 years that make our textiles. They're all made on a pedal loom. Most of the weavers that we work with are men, although you can see from this picture that many of the women do backstrap weaving as well. Many of the women do the pedal weaving as well. And many of our textiles also include icots. We do not work with backstrap loom weavers. We found that the textiles are incredibly beautiful, but they're also very, very expensive to produce. And we don't carry a high-end product line. Instead, we focus on a more affordable options. I wanted to introduce you a little bit to some of the women who run Upabeam. This is Angela, and she's our director. This project would not be where it is without her. This is one of my favorite photos. It's a picture of her giving her opinions to the current president of Guatemala. This is Carmen, and she manages all of our, she works directly with the weavers, and she manages all of our raw materials. Maida is an extremely talented designer. She also does all her training for our sewing. She's had a very difficult year this year as 2 of her children have passed away. Sonia takes care of our jewelry and our handwork, and she's a breath of fresh air. She's always smiling. And Gloria manages our inventory, and her warehouse is much cleaner than mine. So we sell our products in Guatemala, Europe, New Zealand, and the majority of our sales go through my offices here in Fort Collins, here to the US. We primarily sell wholesale to retail stores and museums across the US, but you can also purchase our products on our online website. We sell, I just wanted to show a few products, a lot of kitchen items, children's items, some Christmas items, and you can see a lot more of our products on our website. This year really also has brought challenges like it has to everyone with COVID. Luckily, our US sales here did not significantly drop, but we did lose a lot of purchasing from other areas. And so luckily, we had to move all of our machines from our facilities into the homes of the women so they could work in their homes and not come in. Transportation in the city was extremely difficult and shut down and unsafe. There's the Upabeam Community Development Foundation that raises money to support the cooperative, and it's based here in the US. And luckily, they were able to raise funds to pay the salaries for the women when our workshops were shut down for 2 months, including our teachers. And we also distributed a lot of food to our members and their families. Even though our weavers were getting paid, a lot of their families had lost income during the shutdown. So the food was definitely important for their families and throughout the community. The school is still closed, and we don't have any timeline for opening in sight in Guatemala. But we are very confident that Upabeam will survive COVID and continue for another 30 years to bring light to the women and their families in La Esperanza. So you can learn more about the projects or make a donation to upabeam.org. Our website to shop online is upabeamcrafts.org. Wholesale is at upabeamwholesale.org, and my contact is elisa@upabeam.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. That was terrific. And it was good to show that video. Very, very interesting, that street scene. All right, our third speaker today is Ann Kelly with Mayan Hands. Ann probably needs no introduction for those of you who are familiar with the Guatemala textile scene over the years, but I think you'll enjoy your presentation. So Ann, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, and can you see my?
Yeah, Elisa, you need to stop sharing your screen. There we go.
All right. So like Elisa, I have to start with a huge thank you for inviting us to talk about Mayan Hands, but also to the WARP community for the friendship, the support and the solidarity that has been displayed in countless ways over the years. You've just given so much to the women that we work with, and they're very grateful. The women always, oh, can I not advance? Let's see if I can go down here. There. The women always ask us to thank their supporters. So especially thank you from them. So last year in 2020, a lot of things happened, but a wonderful thing that happened was that Mayan Hands celebrated 30 years of partnership with Mayan women textile artists in Guatemala. And when Brenda, who was probably listening in, and Freddie Rosenbaum started what eventually became Mayan Hands, the idea was to open up markets for Mayan textiles. And many of the women that Brenda started with working then are still working with us. This is Mariana Lahu. And on the left, you can see Mariana and her daughter Blessing on in 1990, I guess. And then in the right, recently. So I'm hearing some weird sound.
Someone needs to, here we go. I think Eric Mann needs to be muted. I think I've got it.
Okay, all right, thanks. So although Mayan women are known the world over for their exquisite textiles, at home they experience discrimination, gender and racial discrimination, and extreme poverty. But we've found that when women can count, and this is what's key, a regular income, that's what's important to us, they can support their families and build local economies. So we've witnessed over the years a sea change in the lives of the women. They speak out, they resist domestic oppression, and they have more agency in their lives. This is a group of backstrap weavers in San Rafael, and these are their daughters who receive scholarships through Mayan Hands. So, whoops, sorry. So like the women, we're all really excited about the Mayan Hands Educational Fund, which provides scholarships and support to the daughters of our artisan partners. We're a 501c3, and our mission is to provide economic and educational opportunity so the women themselves can build sustainable futures, and also so they can continue to live within the culture that they cherish. And we work with women because we believe that women are powerful agents for social and economic change, and then when women work, families thrive, communities benefit, and economies grow. And with access to resources and tools, the women are able to achieve their full potential and then ensure the same for those around them. So there's a tremendous ripple effect. So this is basically in a nutshell how we work. Through market access, which provides women opportunity to earn critical income. And at this point, I just have to mention, we have an amazing staff in Guatemala. Some of you know Julio, who is our in-country director, and we have equally wonderful staff people who support our work. Secondly, we do capacity building. That's sort of a combination of our economic and educational model. And artisans can participate in training so they can develop business and technical and leadership skills. And then thirdly, we invest in the next generation of leaders by supporting Indigenous girls in schools. So we're primarily wholesale, although with the pandemic, that is beginning to shift to more retail sales, and we sell primarily to, we've opened the doors more to more stores, a lot of gift stores, certainly fair trade stores, a lot of museum stores, but more stores are finding us as well. And by selling their handcrafted creations month after month and year after year, the women have critical and again, reliable income. And it gives them financial stability so they can plan for the future because they know they'll have income. And since our inception, we worked according to fair trade principles, which you see on the screen here. And we're proud to be a founding member of the Fair Trade Federation, like UPABIM. So our artisan partners, we work with 14 different democratically organized cooperatives of Mayan women in the highlands, and we're actually onboarding a couple more. Our artisan partners weave on backstrap looms, with each community having its own specializations, such as a particular brocade. Let's see. They weave on floor looms, and here are some of our floor loom products. They weave cinta on, they weave cinta on a loom that's a hybrid of a backstrap and a floor loom. They weave tapestry on treadle looms. And these are some of the tapestry. This is, these are kind of marked up because this is like an example of the design process where we communicate back and forth with photographs, and we're talking about colors choices here. They also dye, they make hospe, known as ikat in other parts of the world. Here's some hospe products. They dye cotton with natural dyes, and this is a project that was actually born at, or conceived at a WARP meeting several years ago. And here's the child of that project. They crochet. They make friendship bracelets. They craft exquisite pine needle baskets from pine needle and pajon, which is a wild grass that grows in the Guatemalan highlands. And lastly, they needle felt wool to make these adorable little felted wool animals. And this is a new line of backyard birds that we're working on. So capacity building is the part of our work that combines educational and economic. And the women are able to participate in programs that support them in realizing their potential as artists and business women. And it helps them to create change in their communities and also share their creativity and culture with a global market. So the programs include technical skill assistance, and here Sharon Costello is working with the women on honing their needle felting tool skills. And in the next picture, Diego, who is wearing the red sweater, is one of the women who participated in that workshop. And now she has taught 2 new co-ops of women who now make our backyard birds, which we've sold 3,000 of them in the last year. They learn new skills. They learn about business and leadership. They learn about occupational health and safety, and you can see WARP member Kate Colwell here. And also there's other workshops in gender role awareness, conflict resolution, and other health and well-being. And so this is where I'm going to just really briefly talk about COVID, sort of related to health and well-being. It has had and continues to have a significant impact on the lives of our artists and partners. Our sales plummeted. We didn't have as much work for them. Guatemala shut down, but thanks to the support of generous donors, we and they navigated all of this. The women were able to had access to educational programs that we offered and hygiene kits, and they were able to work from home while we figured out new safety strategies for distributing raw materials and for doing quality control and receiving products. And then during the time, and there were 3 months when there was just no work, they received stipends thanks to the generosity of donors that sustained them and their families until they could get back to work. And now we'll talk really briefly about education. Whenever you talk to our artisan partners, their children's education is their highest priority. But unfortunately in Guatemala, girls face barriers to the quality education they deserve simply because they're girls. Cultural bias, poverty, violence, early and forced marriages are a daily reality. But we all know that educating girls can break the cycle of poverty sometimes in 1 generation. So again, with the help of generous donors, the daughters of our artisan partners receive scholarships so they can attend school, and we even have some at the university. And they participate in programs designed to support them as well as they navigate the really unique challenges and possibilities of being the first generation of girls to access a formal education in a male-dominated culture. So their moms don't read or write, but they're finding us on Facebook. So it's just amazing. these are some of their dreams and aspirations, and I'm not going to wait too long on this one. So last year, 49 scholarship recipients moved heaven and earth to study remotely in the midst of a drastic countrywide lockdown, and they successfully navigated the new and complex process of online learning. So to summarize, the story of Mayan Hands belongs to the women we work with. Their skills, their artistry, their wisdom, their enthusiasm, their willingness to take risks, their love of their families and their communities and their culture, that's what inspires us every day in this work. And we also do tours too. I should put that plug in there. Be sure to visit our website, mayanhands.org, to see the beautiful products they create. And you can read our blog to find stories about them and our journey together. Our email address is info@mayanhands.org. And if you want to contact me directly, I also see the info address, but I'm Ann@mayanhands.org. So
Thank you so much.
okay, so I'm
That
going
was
to stop
amazing.
sharing. Okay. All right.
And we'll see all of these smiling faces again. Yes, Susan, you're right. These photos that you've all shared were fabulous. These were really great presentations. And if any of you want to watch them again, you'll be happy to know that we are recording this seminar, and it'll be available on the WARP website. There's also going to be a follow-up email that will include each of the email addresses and website addresses that'll come out to you in the next day or two. So with that said, let's see what we've got in ways of questions. There are so many of us on board today. I'm going to ask you to type your questions into the chat at the bottom of your screen, and then I'll relay them to the speakers. Let's see, I'm going to scroll through the old ones. Let's see. No, I think we're good. Let me start with a question about markets for your products. How do you how do you reach, those of you who've been doing this for a while probably have your tried and true methods, but anyone doing marketing is always trying to find new methods. What have you found to be the most successful ways to acquire new customers over the last year? Mari, Elisa, and any one of you?
Well, the last year was really an aberration. A lot of stores closed their doors, and our sales, we went in, the year before we had an amazing year, a particularly robust year. And that meant that we had some cushion so we could survive. But what we had to do was to pivot and to focus more on retail sales, because our wholesale customers who are, our mission is not so much to make money as it is to make work. So a good wholesale customer is a blessing, because we can provide so much work, or it creates much more work. But they closed their doors. So one thing that we did was to revamp our website and make it more consumer facing. Another thing we did was we partnered through the Fair Trade Federation with an online wholesale website, and we put our basket collection there. And so we found a lot of customers who would never have found us, and now our shelves are just about empty of baskets. So it's a problem, but it's a really good problem to have.
Okay. Mari, do you want to share anything?
Sure. I think different from Anne's situation, we mostly already had retail direct sales. We started with an online platform. So while we do have some wholesale, usually it was not too hard for us to let that go 2020. Like, we knew we couldn't. But I think that somehow our existing online presence, when the pandemic happened, and people who had connections in Guatemala who were looking to support Guatemala, somehow they found us because we already existed. I think we were rather lucky in that position to already
Out
have a
on
presence
social
that way.
media?
I think social media also helps, of course. I think we do have a presence in a community that comes from different digital means. Yeah.
Elisa, the same question for you, but also someone wants to know, what does UPAVIM mean?
Yeah, I just responded in the chat. UPAVIM is a Spanish acronym, and in English it translates to United for a Better Life. And, my answers to the question is really kind of similar to Anne. We've had many conversations about where to go and what to do this year. But we made a lot of moves forward in the online sector, like Anne said, and it's really important for us. We were able to hook onto this wholesale platform, and that really helped us this year. We probably gained, we had never before done like trade shows, and so that platform allowed us to access stores that we never had access to, and so we gained so many new stores this year. I think we would have done way better if it hadn't been for COVID, because a lot of our older customers and fair trade stores, small brick and mortar fair trade stores, really struggled and were closed. But yeah, I guess my message is just having a really strong online platform.
Okay, here's an intriguing question from Terry, who wants to know, how are the men in these communities reacting to women's empowerment?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and I think my answer is anecdotal, can only be anecdotal, because I haven't had conversations with the men, or not a lot of them, and I don't know that I can paint it with one broad stroke. I was staying in a community once, and one of the men came up to me and said, "It's so hard as a man not to be able to support my family through my own through work, but I'm very glad my wife can, and because she can, I help her. Because she needs to work, I'm helping her at home." And I think there's resistance there for sure, but I don't think there's any doubt that when women bring income in, they have more of a voice in how money is spent in their community. And we all know or in their households, we all know that UN statistic that when women have income, 90% of it is spent on family and in the community, and with men, it's in the 30s. So there's definitely there's issues of domestic violence at home, but I don't know that I can speak with authority without really talking to the women more about it. And, it's a delicate subject, and we don't want to overstep. We want to be respectful as well. We did initiate an impact assessment project where we're trying to track our impact by measuring different indicators of quality of life. And we're doing that over time. So I think some of these issues are starting to be teased out in our surveys and interviews with the women. But you can definitely a co-op that's thriving, and we have some co-ops that are definitely thriving more than others because the sales of their products are higher. You can walk into a meeting at that co-op, and the pride and the self-esteem and the joy is palpable. And you know that, but again, this is purely anecdotal.
I might add a little bit on that, if you don't mind, from UPAVIM's situation. I think a lot of what UPAVIM has done over the 30 years for women is given them the self-confidence and the job and the income to actually get themselves out of bad situations at home. So I can think of several women who are no longer in a domestic violence situation after several years, and they raise their own children themselves. So I think, that's a really positive aspect. I mean, when they came to us, they had no self-confidence, nowhere to go, no income. So like Anne said, it's when they have access to a job and income, that's just really a life changer for them. So I think it depends on each household, but that's definitely what we see.
Ari, do you want to add anything?
I'm not sure I can really add more than what the others have said. I just think that it's important to look at the livelihood of households and what the family structure looks like, and it's very difficult to say it from an individual case perspective. I'm sure there is tension, but I think this is a necessary process that we have to go through.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. We have several questions that have to do with mail, with how to get packages from Guatemala to the U.S., and in particular with mail. Carol says she was a volunteer with the Peace Corps in the late 70s, and they used mail packages through without a problem, but with all that we've heard about the post office these days, she's wondering if that's still an issue. And someone else asked about shipping to the U.S. for retail purposes.
So we like, and Upavim does the same thing. We ship via United. So we consolidate our products and ship it out. So and about every 4 to 6 weeks. But I think the question is more about individual packages. And when we have custom orders, we ship via UTS. But I see Deborah Chandler on this, and she can answer definitely about how we get products back and forth. If people want to do that, talk more about that. So
I can share also that I ship with DHL directly from Guatemala. We used to have somebody helping us with shipments in the United States, and we stopped that entirely because the shipping from Guatemala has gotten so much better. And during the holidays, when there were a lot of issues with the post system in the US, we were able to get things to US addresses faster than within US destinations.
Definitely.
This was a big push for us. Yeah.
Does anyone else have experience about shipping things from Guatemala? Someone added a note to the chat that said there's been no post office in Guatemala for several years. So
this is correct, but there are private alternatives.
all right, very good. So we have a couple of questions. Oh, this is pretty specific. Carrie wants to know if she could purchase kits of natural dyed cotton from Mayan Hands.
So the kit that was in the slide is on our website. So it's a kit that was developed in cooperation with Handwoven Magazine, and Sarah Jackman did the design work. And there's there are instructions. So so that's on our website. We're not able to. We're not right now at the point where we can do individual cones of yarn. We're only doing it in kit form.
Okay, very good. And Kathy asked a question. We might need you to elaborate on this a little, Kathy. She said, apart from tourist sales in Guatemala and foreign sales, what is the domestic market like, and how would you suggest developing it further? So, in other words, besides tourists, is there a lot of demand for these textiles inside of Guatemala?
I think there is, I guess there is a demand, but the question is, are people willing to pay a fair price for the true price that should be paid? So certainly there are high-end stores, but I just have to say the competition is fierce. There are probably 500,000 or more weavers in Guatemala, and it's very difficult for people to be able to earn a sustainable income in the local community. And often as the price gets driven down through competition, then the quality goes down. It makes sense. You can't put as much work into it. So internally, I think it's pretty challenging.
I can also say that I find it discouraging. I've participated in some fairs nationally in Guatemala and tried to encourage sales, and just the level of conversations we have to have in because the education level of their own handmade traditions is so low. It's frustrating for me to have these conversations over and over.
Our products are, you know, different than the other two ladies, and so am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think there's a little bit of promise for some products. Of course, they're you know, they don't cost as much as a weaving that's made on a backstrap loom. We do sell to several stores in Guatemala, especially in Antigua, and that's something that we're going to look into trying to grow more this year.
Speaking of growing more, someone's asked a question about sourcing, which is of interest to me too. Sue says, can you talk a little more about the source of your raw materials? Where's the cotton come from, the yarns, the dyes, and so on?
I can answer for us. We're purchasing cotton from Guatemalan companies, and they are getting their cotton as far from the last time I looked into this, which was in the last year, from the United States and I believe Costa Rica as well. The dyes are, so the yarn is, we're purchasing yarn that is already dyed. With the natural dyes, and also, well, with the baskets, the women are gathering the pine needles and the pajon, and we send raffia to them to make the baskets. And there's not a good source of wool that is appropriate, that is of the right quality for making the felted wool animals. So we procure that here and we ship it down to them there. There's somebody, I know of somebody who's trying to do some sheep breeding to get better quality wool, but I think that's going to be a little bit, that's going to take a little while for that to happen.
Thank you. It's 2 minutes past 2, and I'm going to take a couple more questions because we've got a couple more in the chat, and then we'll wrap things up. Della Ray asks, is it difficult to enable women to keep and develop traditional designs when there's so much external influence and a need to satisfy external markets?
Mari, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I think absolutely. I struggle with this and how, you know, my inputs in the color preferences and design preferences affect the weavers and maybe their own preferences subjectively, or I don't know. But I think the underlying issue is, are the weavers able to support themselves? Is weaving a financially viable tradition to continue to their daughters? Will people continue to weave? Because if it is not an income source for them, they will not. So if in that sense I can produce something that is sellable and there is income coming, the technique is still there, and I hope that they will weave for themselves of their own heritage and their own designs to continue for themselves. But if there is no income, I don't think this is something that is going to be feasible.
Well said. All right. I think the appointed time has come to wrap things up. Is there anyone who needs to make a final comment before we wrap? I appreciate all of you giving us thanks for the presentation. It's been very fun to be part of this process and to put things together. I know I've been going to WARP meetings for a number of years, but I've learned more in the last few months about what our members do than it's more than could get packed into an annual meeting. So I really think it's delightful and hope. Those of you who are WARP members, it's been good to see you, see your smiling faces, even though we can't be in person. And those who are not familiar with WARP, we hope you'll consider joining our mighty merry band here. All right, so thank you so much. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Oh, I would just like to thank all of our presenters and also to direct people to the resource guide that is on our website, because there's contact information from many other groups. And some of them in Guatemala too, that we could not have on this panel.
Well, thank you, everyone. Happy New Year to you. I hope it's a healthy one. And we'll see you again soon, I hope, at the next Zoom panel next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.